Welcome. Well, there's a house on a hill. Tell me in the comments if anyone recognizes that tune. What's up, friends, family members? It is I, your friend, Malin Darvis, with a guitar. And I don't have a cup of coffee today, but I do have a glass of water. So we're on the water cheers train. How the hell are you? I have on aviator sunglasses today because I think it's befitting to the topic I'd like to talk about. Also, my hair went up today for the first time in a long time since I chopped it off. Current plan there is grow it back out and bleach it blonde again. And if you don't like it, I don't care. How are you? Good to see you. It is 3:16, Wednesday, June 22nd. I had to look closely because these are not prescription sunglasses, and I can't see anything. I got a comment in one of the previous videos, the last video, the Mariah Carey video that I did. I had on sunglasses, and someone actually commented, I wish I could read with my sunglasses on, and those are actually prescription sunglasses. Without them, I can't see anything, which is very helpful when you are staring at yourself on a monitor here and don't really want to look at yourself. But anyway, I guess you want to look at me, so here we are. On a Wednesday. Been a good day. I've been in a real good mood the last few days. I've had an up and down couple of years, but the last 3 or 4 days I've been back on track with a lot of things, and things are feeling good. I'm feeling better. And we're back on track. So speaking of, last night, if you're younger than me, you're not going to get this. But if you're my age and you were alive in the 80s, you're going to remember the impact of a band called Motley Crue. Now, these days it's kind of hard to describe. These days, but it is. These days it's really hard to describe to someone who wasn't there for that era why they're a good band, because you see them now and, they're 40 years older than when they started and, 35 years or 30 years older than they were at the height of their fame or something around there. And I would guess at this point in time, they're basically old enough to be their own grandparents from when they came out, right? Mick Mars, I looked it up yesterday, and he is 71 years old. He was in his 20s when they started the band, so he could literally be his own grandfather now. And so it's hard to describe to people the impact of the band or how they were cool, but at the time when Motley Crue put out a new song or an album, it was like it had the impact of, when Kanye puts out something, or when Drake puts out something, or when Rihanna puts out something, or Taylor Swift. It was that big. It impacted the entire world. Millions and millions and tens of millions of copies of albums sold out stadium tours all over the world. And I was a gigantic fan. I think I heard Shout at the Devil, their second record, first one on a major label, but their second record, when I was maybe 9 years old, and it just blew my mind with the pentagram on the cover and the flames and everything. I actually saw it in a Mormon church. My brother and his friends had it, and they secretively showed it to me like it was, something very, very dangerous. And my mind was blown, and I've been a fan ever since. I saw Motley Crue when it was like my first real concert. My first concert ever was Peter, Paul, and Mary when I was a kid. My mom took me to Dallas to see Peter, Paul, and Mary. But I think when I was about 12, me and my best friend, for many years, first grade through about ninth grade, we were as tight as you could be, me and my friend Stephen Dawson from Ada, Oklahoma. Rest in peace. He passed away a few years back. But when we were kids, we were the best of friends, and we listened to Motley Crue and Rat and Dokken and all these bands. And we got to go, his uncle would take us to concerts. He took us to see Kiss, but first he took us to see Motley Crue. And that first concert, it might have been Theater of Pain, maybe. I know I saw Girls, 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 and I believe I might have even seen Dr. Feelgood, but I don't know. But I believe the first concert I went to was Theater of Pain. I was 10 or 11 or 13, something like that, very young. And it blew my mind, like the fire coming off the stage. They all had tattoos. They were drinking Jack Daniels bottles on stage and saying the F word and all this stuff, tens of thousands of fans. And that was the night I thought, like, that's what I'm going to do. And I set out on a lifelong journey to become Motley Crue. And actually, when I first moved to LA, a friend of mine who was already living here, she had VIP tickets to see Motley Crue at the Palladium, which is an amazing venue in LA. And I saw them there when I was about 34 years old. And the funny thing is, after that show, I thought to myself, I'm going to get a bunch of tattoos. I'm going to start drinking Jack Daniels, and I'm going to start a band, and I'm just going to be a rock star. And then it hit me. And I had that full circle moment 20-something years later. They did it to me again. And I laughed to myself. I was like, that's where it started. The tattoos, the booze, the out-of-control rock and roll behavior and all that. That's really where it all began. And so I say all this to tell you about last night. I pulled up on YouTube. Motley Crue is currently on a stadium tour. It's called the Stadium Tour. They're co-headlining with Def Leppard. So Motley Crue headlines one night, Def Leppard plays before them, and then they switch each night. And then Poison's before them, and then Joan Jett's before them, and then a new band called Classless Act is opening the show. And it's sold out stadiums all over the place. They're doing, I don't know how many shows, but it's a lot of shows, a lot of tickets, a lot of people, a lot of rock and roll. And last night I sat back after everything was said and done, popped a couple extra curricular activities into my system, and I put on one of the concerts that Motley Crue did just about 3 or 4 days ago. And it was filmed by a fan with an iPhone. And it was incredible quality for that. I mean, it's amazing what you can capture standing in a crowd with an iPhone. They filmed the entire show mostly. There were a few points that it clipped out and it jumped forward where they, probably the arm got tired from doing this for, an hour and a half. I don't know how they did it, but whoever did that, thank you, because it was a effing blast. I watched from start to finish, and it was mind-blowing. I had to Google the ages of the band members because I was thinking, man, how weird is it? I've lived a whole life since the first time I saw them. And to sit here today, last night in Los Angeles, one of the main reasons I moved here is because when I was a kid, this was my dream. Motley Crue, Rat, Sunset Strip, Van Halen, The Doors, the whole thing. I've always dreamed of living in Los Angeles, and that's why it's kind of wild I ended up here. And I always wanted to live in the Hollywood Hills, and I do. But that being said, this was another one of those weird full circle moments because I've lived an entire life, and these guys are still playing stadiums. And sure, they've had breaks, and they had a decade where they really weren't popular and they didn't play much. And then I believe they said they hadn't played together in 7 years at this point. But they're still going, and they're still playing sold-out stadiums, and it was amazing. One of the critiques that they get is people kind of mock Vince Neil, their singer, because, well, he's a little overweight now, but I mean, he's in his mid-60s probably or something. I mean, these guys aren't kids anymore. And life has a way of beating you down, and sometimes dealing with life makes you gain weight, if you know what I'm saying. That's happened to me, where you drink so much, and I ballooned up before, especially in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm about 153 pounds right now, and back then I was like 185. So imagine me 30 pounds heavier just from beer. But one of the critiques he gets is that he's kind of out of shape, but also that he can't really sing in key. But the problem is people are trying to judge him without realizing that when I saw him when I was 12 years old or whatever, he couldn't sing live back then either. He's always sung a little bit sharp, a little bit flat. He kind of mumbles some of the words. That's how he's always done it. Like it took me a minute to get used to it way back in the day. Like, wait a minute, he's out of key. And then by the end of the concert, you just don't care anymore. He had a cool swagger, and his nasally voice mixed with Motley Crue's bombastic hard rock, it just works. So if you were to watch this on YouTube now, you might watch a little bit of it and go, well, the singer sounds weird. It's okay. You just don't get it. That's how it's always been. It's kind of like the first time I heard a Jane's Addiction live bootleg cassette tape when I was a kid in Ada, Oklahoma. My friend Ricardo found one, and I remember listening to it with him, and I thought, Perry Farrell's voice is out of key. And it was sharp, flat, all over the place. But again, it's just kind of a vibe. It's a cool vibe. And last night I watched that Motley Crue show, and man, they go through the string of hits, and they've had decades worth of hits. So many hit songs that you'd have to, so many great songs, and then so many number one, number two, hit everything songs to choose from that it's probably hard to make the set list. But man, they killed it. I mean, I was kind of watching with one eye covered, like, what are they going to do? And they killed it. It was really great. I had so much fun for an hour. It was like an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes. I can't remember. From start to finish, just song after song after song after song. Tommy Lee, the drummer, possibly the best hard rock drummer, definitely of that era, of all the bands from the 80s. He was absolutely the standout, for me anyway. I mean, I think about Alex Van Halen, and he's amazing. But Tommy Lee's one of those guys that had as much personality on drums as the singer. Like, they all stood out in a weird way. It's one of those weird bands with really three rock stars, and then Mick Mars, the guitar player, who's he was about 8-9 years older than the rest of the guys. And so he's more laid back. But his laid back blues playing style is kind of what holds those three crazy other personalities together. Vince is running around screaming in the mic. Nikki Sixx is back in the day, on drugs, falling down, rolling around on the ground with his bass. And Tommy Lee's drum sets doing flips and going out over the crowd. And Mick Mars is just holding down the music. And he's such a good guitar player. And he killed it last night. It was really fun to watch. If you haven't seen, if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. I've watched a little bit of Def Leppard's performances, and I've watched a little bit of Poison, but the only one that I've watched start to finish is Motley Crue. I mean, out of all those bands from back then, they're possibly my favorite. And it was just amazing to sit here all these years later and watch them go song after song, killing it, place going crazy. And it's one of those things that makes you go, wow, that is a hell of an accomplishment, man. To have started the band in like 1982 or whatever, and 40 years later, not only are you still together, but you're still touring stadiums. And there have been rough patches, sure, where people's tastes change or whatever, and they may have been kind of, they're not on the top of the charts anymore or anything. But to still be able to go out and do that is so amazing. I had to really think about it. Like, it would be as if the very first band I really ever was a rock and roll singer for, I joined when I was 15. And it would be like if I had joined that band at 15 and we were still together touring stadiums, playing the songs that we wrote when we were teenagers. Like, it makes no sense. It's so crazy to think about, but hey, it's very hard to do. Very few bands can do it. And a lot of the bands that do it for 40 years, playing stadiums is great, and you're making millions of dollars and private jets and hotel rooms. But the ones that really get me are the bands like Bang Tango, who are still on the road. Just the singer, I think, is the only original guy. But they've been playing bars and clubs for chump change. I hate to say it. I was a fan of Bang Tango back in the day. There's actually a documentary called Attack of Life on YouTube. That's my favorite rock and roll documentary I've ever seen. It's kind of a lo-fi, low-quality documentary done by a Bang Tango fan, I believe. But the story that they lay out will show you like how they started, how they blew up, and then what's happened since they disappeared. And you find out they're still touring 40 years later. And that's what's really hard, to keep the band going for that long, playing bars and clubs. I know, my last band that I had was together about 10 years. And at the end, the playing bars and clubs was just killing me. I wanted to be in stadiums. I wanted to be on the big stages, and here we were, at Mike's Sports Bar, playing to, a couple hundred people or whatever, and it was just kind of a bummer. But it's tough. That's the real dedicated warrior. Bands that kind of had a little bit of success, but they never really made it huge, and they're still going. Those are the real road warriors. There needs to be some sort of a GoFundMe set up for all of them, and have everyone on earth who ever enjoyed their music contribute and amassed a total, millions of dollars to give to these guys. But the Crue are still in stadiums. And as I watched it, I thought, this might be the last tour that they do, right? I mean, with Mick being 71, and he has a bone disease, some sort of a spinal or bone disease. He has something going on with him that's fusing all of the bones in his body together slowly over the years, and he plays kind of hunched over. It's a miracle he's on stage. Miracle he's on stage. I watched a documentary about Motley Crue putting themselves back together 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And everybody was in for the reunion, but they went and found Mick, and he was basically laying in bed for many years, taking pills, pain pills and stuff, had gotten hooked on those, and he was communicating with aliens. He's a very strange guy, great guitar player, but a very strange guy. And they were able to get him up, get him moving again, put him back in the band, and then they went on a massive tour. And he's still touring. I mean, it's unbelievable. So for a kid like me who grew up listening to that music, sure, I don't necessarily listen to Motley Crue all the time now, although I do throw it on sometimes and just, tears well up in my eyes because of all the memories associated with it. And some of the songs are just so fantastic, especially on their very first record called Too Fast for Love. What's the song I'm thinking about? On With the Show is just a beautiful song called On With the Show. That was my favorite song in the world when I was 10. Something like that. I'd have to Google a year, but I would have no idea. But somewhere very young, 9 or 10, just listening to it over and over and over. But anyway, that's my Motley Crue rant. Hats off to the guys. The show was unbelievable. Tommy Lee has broken 4 ribs, and he's still on the tour. He only plays like 4 or 5 songs, and then another drummer comes in for most of the show. And then he comes out later and does the piano part for Home Sweet Home, which I used to play with my brother at talent shows and bars and stuff. Dozens and dozens and hundreds of times back when I was a kid. That song always chokes me up. But he comes back out near the end of the show and he plays the piano part and then runs to the drums and does play the drums on that song with 4 broken ribs. Could you imagine? The doctors told him, you can't play the drums at all, like even to practice. And he went on stadium tour. And here's just like everybody pray to God that nothing too bad happens while they're out there, that he doesn't re-injure himself, because that'd be a tragedy. So if you're like me and you've been around on this earth for a while and you remember the great and almighty Motley Crue, you might want to go check out YouTube and just look up Stadium Tour 2022 Motley Crue Full Show, and you'll find a bunch of videos. And like I said, if you're younger, you might not get it. You go, who are these old guys? But one day you'll be the old guys, and whatever you're listening to, they will be the old bands that people call classic rock. Drake's going to be classic rock one day. He's going to be classic R&B. Taylor Swift is going to be classic rock one day. Old school country, So don't be too much of an asshole when you see a band that's been around for 40 years, and yes, they're 60 years old and 70 years old. They're not quite what they used to be, but man, that spark was still there. I loved it. Anyway, I just thought I'd jump on and share that. I really had nothing to say today, and I thought, well, I did watch that concert last night. I could rap about that with the kids. Just to get another video up here and let you know that I'm still alive. I'm with you. If no one's told you that they love you today, I love you. I'll let you hear that word from a person. If you don't have a friend, I'll be your friend. Of course, I'm locked inside your laptop or your phone, but hey, we can be virtual friends. And that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say. It's now 3:34, and we've been going damn near 20 minutes. Wow. All right, so I'm going to shut this down, do a slight little edit, and then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. So Let me know if you've ever heard of Motley Crue. If you ever have, post in the comments. If you have a favorite song or a favorite concert memory, post it in the comments. Or if you just want to say what's up, I usually respond down there for the first day or two. And let me know how you guys are. Things are cool here. Like I said, life is full of ups and downs. And right now, I'm on an up. So cheers to that. Thank you for tuning in. Water cheers on the way out. I gotta go. I got things to do. What do you think? I make any money off this stuff? Are you crazy? I gotta go. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for checking out the video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe or I'll kill you. And I love you. Have a great day. And as always, I will see you in the future.